All right, so we got to talk about Tyron Smith, man.
Yeah,
Reported the other day by Ian Rappaport that
right.
there's a very high likelihood that Tyron Smith will most likely be on another team next year.
Mm,
So, immediate thoughts to me,
mm,
obviously, this isn't the way I want this to go.
right.
I just think that there's more needs on this football team that I would prefer to address. Obviously, now that's the one of the biggest needs to some people. But I don't think it's the end of the world per se, due to the fact that we have Tyler Smith on the team and we've seen him play really good left tackle snaps for you his rookie season. So
Right.
if I'm Jerry, immediately, like, he should have already said this, if honestly, not right now, but if Tyron does decide to go on and leave the team, if I'm him, I say, hey, look, Tyler Smith played left tackle for us his rookie season. He
Mm,
showed us some real promise, and that's an avenue that we might be exploring only because now teams are going to know, hey, the Cowboys are going to look to draft a tackle. So now teams behind you that are tackle hungry are going to say, yo, we got to get out in front of the Cowboys if we want to, get this tackle that we really like. So to me, that's just off the rip what I would do. But I don't think this is the end of the world because, again, like I said, Tyler showed some promise for you his rookie season at left tackle. TJ Bass showed some promise as well. To be honest with you, I was looking at potentially drafting a center in
mm,
the first round, but
mm,
that doesn't look likely if you have to use that for a tackle. But
right.
what do you think about this, bro?
I mean, it does like, raise some hair on your back when you think about the stability of the line. It seems so stable because you can say, hey, we're, depending on where these guys land, Biadasz, and then these young guys that are developing, you got Bass that I think can play some left guard for you if he has to, and Tyler gets pushed out. When you look at how stable the line seems, it does feel less comfortable with Tyron, probably or possibly not going to be here. But this day was coming, at some point. So, we watched what Tyler, like you said, we watched what he was able to do at left tackle. And I think that Bass has showed me that he's evil enough to play guard. I also think that Tyler Smith is better at guard than he is at left tackle, personally. But if he's gonna play left tackle, now's the time. So if we're gonna do it now, or you're not gonna do it at all. And when you have a logjam at guard between him and Bass, where you feel like both can give you some good reps, why not take Tyler this early in the off season and try to make that transition so that he can be prepared for this upcoming season? And when you watch what we did with like Chume Doga and the little musical chairs game we played over there last year, you got other options as well where we watched a kid and still like develop fast as an undrafted free agent, right? When you look at Austin Richards, I think people kind of forget that we got him last year, and we haven't had a bad track record with developing offensive line talent as of late. So we don't know what we're going to get from Austin. We don't know, what we're going to get as far as the position flex from Tyler. So I think both are interesting pieces, but not as scary if you really dissect it. You know what I mean? It's not as scary as it might be, and you might still be right with the prospects of going after a center instead of putting left tackle at a high commodity. You know what I'm saying? So you don't know how it's going to shake out. That's how I think they're looking at it. I think what Cowboys fans, and not to be super duper long winded, which it already is, but
No, 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 you're straight.
most Cowboys fans are looking at it like they keep hanging on the idea of all in, right? So they're looking at that like, is that an all in move? And I think just like anything else, that's based on your perception. The way Jerry and those guys are looking at it, I don't think they were ever going to jump out in free agency and go crazy. And I think that when you look at the way they have structured the offense, especially over the last, other than Amari Cooper, but over the last, 8 to 10 years, 8 years, should I say, they've made great moves offensively. I haven't. We've had a good offense almost every year, and we're a team that went 12-5 3 years in a row. So they are doing something right. Now, I agree with Steven when he said postseason is what you should be worried about.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And like, here's the thing, right? I think that one of the best offensive lines that we've seen over the past 5, 10 years or so was that 2022 Eagles offensive line. And when you look at that offensive line, right?
Mhm.
7th round draft pick at left tackle, 2nd round left guard, 6th round center. I don't even know where they drafted Sumawu, but then 1st round pick at right tackle. So, to me,
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I I I I I think that the Cowboys should probably look. I wish that the Cowboys were better at hitting on some of their later round picks on the offensive line. Now, don't get it
Mhm.
twisted. Like for what Terrence Steele was an undrafted free agent who came in as raw as he did. And Terrence Steele deserved that contract because he showed some real promise for this football team. But outside of that, over the past 5 years or so, there really hasn't been much talent developed in the later rounds when it comes to the offensive line.
Mhm.
And I think that TJ Bass can be a guy for this team.
Right.
And like, there's a reason why they drafted Akeem Richards because they think that this guy has some traits that could translate into being, a very high level left tackle.
Right.
So if I'm the Cowboys, I'm looking at this and saying like, hey, if there's a tackle that falls to us there, that's great. But I'm going into this offseason saying, all right, let's see what TJ Bass looks like at left guard. Let's see what
Mhm.
Awesome Richards looks like at left tackle,
Right.
and then go from there. And then if Awesome Richards looks good at left tackle, you keep
Right.
Tyler at guard. If TJ Bass looks better at guard, move Tyler to tackle.
Pretty much. Like I agree with that. I agree with that. It's not as like I said, it's not as scary as it may sound. We have a very deep, one of the deepest offensive line groups in the league. We had a starting five. Then we had TJ Bass. We have Awesome that was sort of like a red shirt last year. We had Chume, who people were pissed off with about 2 games, who's average, but good enough to play. And then you had Hoffman as well, who played well and gave you some quality reps. So you got a lot there that you can build off of and you can do some things with. A lot of teams don't even have that. You know what I mean? They're like doing patchwork there because they've spent so much money in certain areas on that line. They'll have like one main guy and then a couple of guys in between that and another guy. You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah,
that
yeah.
where we had good balance throughout, I think.
And I tried to tell people when Tyron went down in 2022, right? I said that like when they moved Tyler to left tackle, they had McGovern at left guard, Biotic, Martin Steele. I said that it's still one of the better offensive lines in football. And I don't think people understand that there are a lot of bad offensive lines in football, which is the reason why I said that. You know what I'm saying? And I look at a team like Miami. Miami didn't have a really good offensive line this past year. Actually, their offensive line wasn't that good at all. And they were still able to run the football effectively. Why? Because they had a great scheme. Like they were up there when it came to rushing yards and yards per attempt and stuff like that. And it's not one of those situations to where like the Ravens are a team that's at the top of the league when it comes to rushing yards because Lamar runs for so many damn yards. This is a situation to where no, they're up there with some of the best rushing teams in football because they have a real good run scheme and their running backs are doing work for that team because Tua is not providing you anything on the ground. So
Right.
like when I look at a situation like that, I'm like, all right, I think we could do some better work with the run scheme. And if Mike McCarthy gets in, to the lab this offseason, which I think he will, I think the run scheme will be more improved
Mhm.
come this season. And if he
Right.
can do that, I think like personnel wise, the offensive line might not be as good as it was last year, but you might get better results because, the why is a lot better than it was the previous season.